Raider Nation, I'm asking because I need to know. I'm flying out to the Bay next weekend to hang out with Raider on Sunday, but I'm totally free on Saturday night. So if you want to come grab some drinks, watch tomorrow's live show. But I need to know, what are the best bars in San Francisco? Go down to the comment section right now and let me know. Raider Nation, what's going on? You're watching the Raider Sport, and today's show is presented by Manscaped. Father's Day, it's right around the corner. I know there's a lot of dads watching the show, and if you're like, man, my wife always asks me, what the heck should I get you for Father's Day? Send her the link, manscaped.com. Use code Raiders for 20% off and free shipping. So the topics that we're going to be breaking down today are the Raiders have their eyes apparently on a big dude free agent. Also on top of that, Clelin Ferrell, is he switching positions? And Pro Football Focus broke down the position that they are watching the most closely entering camp. Could Ndamukong Suh be on his way to Las Vegas? A report that came out over the weekend was that the Raiders and other teams, which I'll get into here in a second, have shown some interest in the free agent defensive tackle. I have always said since the offseason has started that I thought one of the biggest needs for the Silver and Black was going out and adding another big body on the interior. Yes, the Raiders went ahead and they drafted Mitchell Renz Jr. They also went ahead and they drafted Matthew Butler, and they tried to sign a few other players like Bilal Nichols in free agency. And I understand the fact that Suh is 35 years old, going to be turning 36 in January. So some people are like, does it really make sense to go out and get him? Well, I'll tell you here in just a second. But I do know one thing, man. If the Raiders go ahead and they sign Ndamukong Suh, I'm going live. And I do not want you guys to miss it. So hit that subscribe button. Turn on those notifications. We're keeping you up to date, whether it's a Bryan Edwards trade, whether it's mailbags, news, rumors, the Raiders Report. It's got you covered as a reason. We have over 114,000 subs. So if you love the Silver and Black, go ahead and subscribe. Here are the top teams interested in free agent defensive tackle Ndamukong Suh, and according to reports, the Raiders are one of the top 4 teams that could go out and try to sign him. Yes, he's getting up there in age, but you know what? He's still a pretty solid player. So Tampa Bay, the Browns, the Rams, those are the teams going up against the Silver and Black right now, which is why I'm going to go ahead and ask every single person that comes across this video, should the Raiders go out and sign Ndamukong Suh? If you're like, yes, Mitch, they absolutely should, go down, type S for sign. If you're like, you know what? I think you should go ahead and pass on him. You can go ahead and type your P for pass. So he's getting up there in age, about to turn 36, but this is still a little bit of a need for the Raiders. So should they go ahead and go out and get Suh? My answer is this. I'm going to go ahead and give this one 4 just win babies and say, yes, you can go out and sign Ndamukong Suh. Why? He's still good, man. And I feel like way too often people look at the age of a player and like, oh, no, we can't go out and get him. He hasn't missed a game, a regular season game, since 2011. He's played in 191 games. I mean, 12 total sacks the past 2 seasons, and he's a big veteran body that's really going to be able to come in and be a solid presence in a Patrick Graham system, because if you want to run a 4-3, a 3-4, heck, a 4-2-5, and Ndamukong Suh can help you do that. And it's important to bring veterans in. I think last year was a great example of that for the Raiders. Sure, if you can go out and find a young player and he can turn and materialize into something great, that's awesome. But if you can also go ahead and get a 35-year-old defensive tackle who's done a lot of good things in his career, also has got some serious playoff and Super Bowl experience of late, if you could have that dude teach Mitchell Renz Jr., teach Matthew Butler, hell, even Bilal Nichols, who's a young player, if I was a defensive tackle, I would love to learn behind Ndamukong Suh. If I was a defensive end like Max Crosby, Chandler Jones, whoever, and I could play next to Suh because he's going to be taking on double teams, that helps me out a ton. So, yes, some of the numbers from a tackling sack standpoint in this area of his career struggled, but over the last 2 years, when he was on a good team and a defense that fit him well, he still was able to get it done. From a career standpoint, he's not the 5-time Pro Bowler that he once was when you go back and you look at his days, maybe with the Detroit Lions. But you know what? I could make a legitimate argument that if the Raiders went out and signed Suh, you bring in his experience, you bring in his playoff experience, you bring in his toughness, because y'all want somebody tough on the interior, and Ndamukong Suh is one mean SOB, and he could arguably be the best defensive lineman that the Raiders have. You put him with Jonathan Hankins as your top nose tackle, and if you can then free up, if our top 3 nose tackles, the defensive tackles, are Jonathan Hankins, Ndamukong Suh, Bilal Nichols, and then our younger players like Ferrell and Butler can be fresh when they come in, I promise you this, it is going to help the defense go very, very far. Now, guys, I love Manscaped, and Manscaped's probably my favorite sponsor because they let me be me, but also they are an important part of your daily regimen. They really are. It's literally shown that women like the way a man smells more than the way he looks. The way I would answer that, why not look good and smell good as well? So a lot of times I talk about Manscaped products, and I love the Ultra Smooth package. I really, truly do. But you know what? Here's how you use it. And I got a 4-step process, and remember, you can go ahead and do this at manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping. Use code Raiders. Hopefully you can remember it. The Lawnmower 4.0. You use this to get rid of all the extra, we'll call it brush down there. You turn it on, bzzz, and then it just starts getting rid of all that stuff, and it works phenomenal. The Crop Exfoliator. Have you ever shaved down there and you get those little razor burns, you get those bumps, and you look like, I don't know, an 8th grader hitting acne? You use the Crop Exfoliator, you clean up your downstairs area. It's not going to happen to you. And with our code, you can also save. Remember, you can get it down to $31.99, the Ultra Smooth package. And then on top of all that, you get the Crop Gel. The Crop Gel is clear. Why? Because when it's clear, it's easier to see what the heck you're shaving. And then the crop shaver itself, it's got 5 changeable blades. It's a smaller handle that's thinner blades that just glide right across your skin, and it's going to give you the closest shave you can ask for. So 20% off and free shipping, manscaped.com. This link's going to be available for you all in the comments and in the description of today's video. It's code Raiders. Usually it's this. I know how hard it is shopping for men, or at least people always ask me, what should I get you? I know I'm not a dad, but I would absolutely take this as a Father's Day gift. So, Manscaped, shout out to them, the Ultra Smooth package. Let's now talk about Clelin Ferrell. And, you know, I had a few people send me an interview, so I went ahead and I listened to it, and I'm going to give you guys my analysis on a recent interview by Cle. Ferrell essentially called himself an outside linebacker. One of the people giving the interview said, you know, they called him a defensive end, and he jokingly was like, oh, you didn't hear? I'm an outside linebacker now. And the way that I would say this is Cle a defensive end, and he's played DT his entire career since he's been with the Raiders? Yes. However, it kind of goes back into the same conversation that I had during my mailbag last week, where you could see Chandler Jones playing outside linebacker because in a 3-4 defense, a lot of times your defensive end also stands up, and he plays outside linebacker. I will bring this to a point. There is a portion of me that is curious of, could this be a better fit for Ferrell? Because he's a little bit too undersized to play defensive end, and he's definitely too undersized to play nose tackle or defensive tackle in the NFL. What if he's able to stand up and use some of that athletic ability that you saw back in Clemson to try to make it seem like maybe, just maybe, he could be worth a pick? I know he's still going to be making $9.98 million. I don't expect him to live up to that. But when you hear the rumors that he's going to be playing outside linebacker, it's because he probably will be, because that's the defense that Patrick Graham's going to be running. And the first 3 years of his career, it's no doubt, it's unfortunate, right? I mean, when you're drafted number 4 overall, you're expected to be able to come in and put up legit numbers. 4.5 sacks in 15 games started as a rookie, decent. Then he started in only 8 games, and I believe he started only 1 game last season. It has not been very good for Cle, so now he has an opportunity to potentially get more snaps, get more reps, and play up or standing up as an outside linebacker. So let's say, hypothetically speaking, Ferrell is hitting at something and he doesn't play defensive end at all. Let's have a little bit of fun here. Let's look at the Raiders' linebacking depth chart, which, by the way, is very difficult to be able to wrap my mind around, because I think the Raiders, they're going to run 3-4. They're going to run 4-3. They're going to run 4-2-5. They're going to run all these different linebacking schemes. If Ferrell's an outside linebacker, I'm still going to bet my money on Kyler Fackrell being the top outside linebacker, not counting Max Crosby and Chandler Jones when they decide to stand up as well. And then your linebackers, your main 3 are going to be Denzel Behrman, Divine Diablo, and Jayon Brown. And you're also going to be sprinkling in Kenny Young, who was just most recently signed. So with all that being said, around Cle, his career high, or season high for his career, does that make sense? I don't know. It's 4.5 sacks. So what I want to know going into this season, his final year on his contract, because the Raiders, they turned down his 5th-year option, how many sacks is Clee going to have this season? The correct answer is guaranteed 1. Shout out to Manscaped. But if you think that he's going to have more, let me know. How many sacks for Clelin Ferrell this season? My answer is going to be 3. And if you see some person running around with 3 sacks, it's probably a failed experiment. But if Clee can go ahead and at least get you 3 and just be a little bit more of a reliable option on third down. Just be somebody where when Chandler, when Max need a breather, when some of these starters, they need a breather, you can bring Clee on that 3rd and 12 situation, that 3rd and long situation. Let him pin his ears back and let him try to get after the quarterback, because I think that's really the only way he's really, truly going to be successful. Now, we talked about Ndamukong Suh. We talked about Clelin Ferrell. The next topic of conversation is going to be around a player that the Raiders went ahead and they signed. On top of that, PFF also talked about a certain position that they're going to have their eyes a little bit closer on, which should not surprise anybody whatsoever. So we talked about some rumors, and now we're getting ready to get in some newsy tidbits, if you will. And then on top of all that, I don't know if you guys have been seeing this. My locals game has been on fire. And what do I mean? I talked about Brian Edwards being on the hot seat on locals. 3 hours later, he ends up getting dealt. Well, this is my new topic. Today I talked about 3 receivers in terms of who is going to be the guy that takes over for Brian Edwards. And if you want to see that video, if you want to get more content around locals, then I want you to go ahead, scan this QR code right here. That's going to get you to locals, raidersreport.locals.com. And if you're wondering, all right, Mitch, well, what was the video that you put out? Because I actually put out a video this morning on Monday, and the question is simple. Who is going to be the wide receiver 3 for the Silver and Black? Is it going to be Keelan Cole? Is it going to be Demarcus Robinson? Is it going to be Mack Hollins? And in that video, I tell you my answer. So at the end of the day, if you want extra lives, if you want videos, because the Raiders Report on YouTube doesn't quite just give you your fix, you need extra content. I get it. I am a Raider junkie myself. So here's my question to everyone watching. From those 3 players, which guy is going to be that wide receiver 3? And when I say wide receiver 3, I'm already putting Devontae and Hunter Renfrow. Those are your top 2 options. So who's going to be the 3rd guy? Is it going to be Demarcus Robinson? Type DR. Keelan Cole? KC. Mack Hollins? MH. If you want to see my answer, go to locals, become a supporter, raidersreport.locals.com. The next topic of conversation here is going to be around what the Raiders did this weekend, and they went ahead and they signed Tyrone Wheatley Jr. And I first saw this name, and I was like, wow, really, we're going to bring him back. So for those of you that are a little bit younger and some of you that don't know, he is the son of former Raiders great running back Tyrone Wheatley, and man, I love watching his highlight tapes. Dude just trucks people. He's a big, mean dude running over people. But for his son, Tyrone Wheatley Jr., he went undrafted in 2020, signed with the Bears practice squad last season, and he's got a big body. You're hoping that you can be able to go ahead and work with him a little bit, and I'm not too surprised because you're seeing the Raiders do a lot of these projects on Bears players. Remember, Champ Kelly working underneath Dave Ziegler has some connections there. But as it stands right now, if you were to ask me, okay, here's the Raiders' offensive line depth chart, I'm going to put him behind Colton Miller, and if he needs to fill in for right tackle as a depth player, sure, go for it. In terms of him making the 53-man roster, I don't see him making the 53. He at least has a halfway decent shot, though, I would say, to make the Raiders practice squad. So after looking at the offensive line, especially that right tackle position, is right tackle the Raiders' biggest need? Still, to this day, I feel like I've been saying it's the biggest need for 2-3 months. Is it still the Raiders' biggest need? Why for yes and for no? The reason why I'm saying yes, and it's going to be the position that I watched the closest this entire offseason, is because you can have all these great players that can catch the football, run between the tackles, but if you don't block, it's just not going to be worth it. And I don't like PFF from a draft standpoint. I don't really think PFF does a very good job with free agency content either. However, if there is a market that I like PFF has locked down, it is the offensive line. And when they say stuff about the O-line, I do listen. So this is what PFF had to say on the Raiders' right tackle spot. They released an article saying, what's the biggest question mark entering the offseason for each team? For the Raiders, they labeled it as right tackle. The projected starting lineup of Alex Leatherwood at right guard and Brandon Parker at right tackle is the same duo that the Raiders finished this season with. Even if Leatherwood takes an expected step forward in his second season out of Alabama, that should be a concern. Leatherwood should have an opportunity to compete for the starting right tackle job as well. He earned a 30.7 PFF grade while starting the first 4 games at right tackle in 2021. Jermaine Illuminor, John Simpson, and Dylan Parham will also be in the mix for starting jobs. Now, I do not see John Simpson or Dylan Parham starting at right tackle. They're going to be more interior guys, and in fact, I've said Parham's going to be a starting center. That's where I view him. And when it really comes down to right tackle, these are the 4 players that I look at them saying they have a shot as it stands right now to start at right tackle. It's Brandon Parker, I would say, is the favorite. Jermaine Illuminor is a name to not sleep on. Denzel Good is definitely another name. And then Jackson Barton. I would like for the Raiders to go out and get a free agent, maybe like a Riley Reef, or you guys know who I want, Darrell Williams. However, I do still think that Brandon Parker ends up starting at right tackle. Before I end today's show, I appreciate everyone who always watches until the end. So what I'm going to start doing during certain shows, probably on Mondays, is I'm going to give some thanks to the people who send in super thanks. For those of you that do not know what that is, it's like a new feature. It's essentially just like a super chat. And all the time, people are like, Mitch, I can't join your live show on Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific. It's all good. I got a busy life too, man. So YouTube just launched this new feature called Super Thanks, which you can see over here thanks to Barbara, and I got to make a video. I'm back in 2K fighting crabs. I can't get over it. I love it. But what you'll see here is it's like a heart with a dollar symbol. You click that. You can put in your message like, you guys can fill in whatever message you want. I'm pretty sure people are just doing what Barbara's doing over here because Robert Fisher, he sent in a thanks. So, Robert, much love. Thank you for supporting the show. Eddie Ward was like, you know what? I'll double down on the thanks as well. Jay Cracks is like, here's your thanks. Hold my thanks. And then Jay goes, Raiders! So shout out to Jay, but you guys can send in a question like Ocean's World. Ocean's World said, do you think DP, do you think McDaniels is going to be aggressive? I think McDaniels has showed me this entire offseason that he's going to be aggressive. And I also saw this one, and it's kind of bad timing because Brian Edwards has already been traded for a 7th-round pick. Now, he might shine with Atlanta, but what I would say, you Raider hype, and again, appreciate the $10 super thanks, is go check out my video on locals where I break down Demarcus Robinson, Keelan Cole, Mack Hollins. Appreciate everyone who sent super thanks. Appreciate for everyone who was watching, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for our live show, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, 3 p.m. Pacific.